you're never bored. Chances are, if you clicked on this video, you probably try as much as you can to not be bored, to escape boredom. While that might be nice to have something else to spend your time with than to sit around and be bored, there's also a downside to it. Until I realized it for myself, I always wondered why it is that life feels very stuck, or I can't break out of this repetitive loop and I can't seem to be able to make a change, even though that's what I so desperately wanted. And until I realized that, which I will be talking about in this video, I always felt like I was in this hamster wheel of trying and trying, never sticking to anything really, and being left wondering what it is that I actually want or how to find something that makes me happy, when in reality it was much more simple than that. So if you're never bored, because nowadays we have all those great distractions that can be quite educational at times, with YouTube or Instagram. So if you're never bored, it might at first seem like some cure from something uncomfortable and unnecessary, but I realized that it was quite essential for setting goals and knowing what I actually want, because being bored is just like an assessment of your current state. It's an evaluation of how satisfied you are with your current situation or even your life. Whenever you're bored, questions come up, questions about your life, uncomfortable things sometimes, and since nowadays it's very easy to distract ourselves with the phones, it's probably more uncomfortable to sit in the moment of silence and of boredom than it used to be. So why does it feel so uncomfortable, and why is it so painful to be bored nowadays? Well, if those questions do come up, you see, they come up for a reason. It's also for a reason that we repressed them earlier with pulling up our phones and watching some reels or videos or chatting with our friends on social media. But then why are these questions still important, and why do they keep coming up? It's not that they come up for, disrupting our peace of mind. Rather, they might be there to make us find peace, to make us find happiness in our lives, because they do come up because something is wrong, because we might be unhappy with a certain area of our lives. So why is it so painful to be bored nowadays? Because whenever those bigger questions of meaning come up, it is quite hard sometimes to admit that some things aren't going as well as we would like them to go. And it is hard to make a change in them. It does take you to make an effort, and change usually is pretty uncomfortable at first, at least. And so since we kind of train ourselves to associate relaxation or relief with watching something or having a podcast on instead of actually sitting in silence, it's now even harder to be bored and to sit in silence and to let these questions come up. And in my experience, or when I talked to my friends about it, they also said it was very hard, or it still is very hard for them to find, that one thing that gives them meaning, the one thing that makes them happy. We talked about careers specifically, but this goes for every area of your life, right? And so the conclusion I came to out of my own experience of not using social media for consumption, or just changing the way that I used it, I realized that not spending time in your own head, not spending time by yourself in your own thoughts, really drives you further and further away of what it is that you actually want, because how can you know if you don't spend time, or if you don't make an effort to get to know yourself? Of course, it's easier to go online and to see what everybody else is doing and to get some ideas. Of course, it's a good inspiration, but in the end, you're the one who has to make the decisions about your own life and about the direction that it's supposed to go to. So really, the only answer is to be found in spending time in boredom and in your own head, because it makes it a lot easier to set your goals, because those goals end up being right for you and not for anyone else, or not for anything you need external validation for. There's nothing wrong with discussing things with your friends and family or your inner circle, but I do believe that only having external sources, especially when it comes to social media, as your proof of validation of what it is that you think you want to do, instead of actually sitting down and asking yourself those uncomfortable questions, maybe even journaling about it, just spending time in your own head in that moment of boredom. You know, I keep mentioning boredom because moments of silence are good, but it's actually that we tend to be more creative when we're bored. We tend to come up with more creative solutions than being bored. And so why is it so painful to be bored? Well, first, because we train ourselves not to be and to react immediately by reaching our phones and watching something. Interestingly, there was this experiment of people in a room being told to do absolutely nothing. And there was this button on the table that participants knew it would shock them if they would press it. And, you know, only 17% didn't press it. And the rest of the participants pressed it and received an electric shock. And this is what they prefer to being bored. So this is apparently how painful it is to be bored nowadays. And I think it's super interesting because I'm asking myself, would we rather spend our lives distracting ourselves from the uncomfortable moments just to escape from it for a moment, rather than to try and make an effort and go through maybe some uncomfortable change, then have a life that we do not have to distract ourselves from? So I think it's super interesting. And this, like, even if you're very, very content with your life, I feel like it's so much more common nowadays to fill those small moments of silence, of boredom, with distraction, which kind of takes away the magic from life in total. And, you know, finding happiness in the simplicity of things or small moments. If you're also struggling or have been struggling with, you know, trying out new things, trying to find meaning or trying to find the thing that makes you happy, but you can't really stick to it, or you just feel like it's so uncomfortable to even spend time by yourself, try out to train yourself to not reach for the phone. Instead, just embrace that small moment of silence, of boredom, and see what happens, see what ideas might come up, and see what thoughts might come up. And it is okay to have those uncomfortable questions come up and those uncomfortable feelings maybe at first, but as soon as you address them, it's gonna change. It's inevitable. It's gonna change for the better. And so boredom is this final push we need. It kind of cultivates action towards making an actual change with the things we're unsatisfied with. If we spend time in boredom, we stop feeding ourselves this cheap dopamine that kind of keeps us stuck in that loop of reaction and then distraction and not actually changing what we're unsatisfied with, what we have to distract ourselves from in the first place. So it helped me a lot. Maybe it helps you too. And so to kind of initiate this, I tried to make my phone less appealing. I put it on grayscale, and then I put all the social media apps for only responding to messages with the app beeper on my computer, and I deleted them from my phone. But if you don't want to do that, you can just try out and not listen to anything while you commute, or go for a walk without your phone, or go to the gym without your phone, eating in silence. These were the first things I tried to kind of integrate before deleting all the apps, because I know that deleting all the apps is not for everyone, and not everyone has to. I mean, it's also very beneficial to use social media. It's just, I think, about the balance of how you use it and how you spent your life outside of social media. So hopefully you could draw out what is helpful for you in your life from this video. Yeah, hopefully you're bored from time to time. Hopefully boredom doesn't seem so bad to you now after all.